know her, make sure you follow her. Make sure you connect with her. We have her contact information on the screen. And if not, we will also let it be seen later on at the end of the show. So with that being said, hello, Miss Belinda.
Oh my goodness, hey Angela, how you doing?
Thank you for trusting Be True to You Talk Show to share your story.
Mhm.
Thank you for not counting robbery to be here with me today. So introduce yourself to the people. I told them that your name is Belinda Knox, but you know your ministry and yada yada.
Oh my goodness. So first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. This is certainly a pleasure, a dream, really. Out of a nightmare became a dream. I really just want to say thank you to Be True to You. You know, you've been a great friend to me. I think we've grown closer in this last year. I'm just so grateful to be here. Yes, I have an organization called Woman to Woman Incorporated, a faith-based organization. We will be celebrating 22 years of doing work in the community, helping women in reentry program, halfway houses, women off the street, or just regular old women that just need some love and care. My story began 30 something years ago when I was out there in the streets, and when I came in and got saved, I wanted to have a place where people that act like me, talk like me, can get the help that they needed, and also just for the fellowship. So that's basically how Woman to Woman started. It was, I think it's a gift that God gave me to be able to connect to other women in the community, everywhere really. So it's just really been a blessing. I think that's how we met as well. I only remember.
Yeah, I don't really know how we met, but I know you've given me two opportunities to share your platform with me.
Definitely.
So I greatly appreciate that.
Mhm.
But what I want to piggyback on what you said, that you wanted God gave you something for women that talk like you, act like you. I love that because I have learned that we're not for everybody. And I was in 2018. That's how Be True to You started. 2008. I felt like I couldn't be a minister. I felt like I wasn't the pastor material because I didn't walk around saying, "Oh, I'm blessed and hall of favor. How are you doing today?" I felt like people thought that maybe I was too shallow. So surely God couldn't use me, and that's when He gave me Be True to You. So I can relate to wanting to be an example to those who felt like they didn't fit in.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I always knew I had a call in my life. I kind of figured I just couldn't try to really understand it. But I think after I, came off the streets of using cocaine and all that crackhead, all that whole thing, and I got saved, and I kind of looked around the church and I'm like, but nobody talking like me, nobody's acting like me. And the Holy Spirit say, have a meeting. So I'm like, have a meeting. I'm always being involved in different things, but I had been a product of the 12 step, like AA and recovery. So I know the power of group. So I kind of thought that's maybe what he was saying. And he was like, no, form your own group. And there was a dear friend of mine that helped me start the group, learn how to set everything up and, go to the park and, get the room, the space and everything. And it just really literally took a life of its own, and I could form it and shape it kind of the way that I wanted it to be. And with the help of other women in the community, it just kept growing. It just kept growing. And I also believe there is a certain niche of people that you are assigned to. Like, who is your tribe? That's what I always say. If that's your tribe, they're going to stick with you. And some people will come and some people will go. Some people will stay. And how they say, maybe for a season, a reason, and a lifetime. So I've had some people that have really been good to me and served with me. And some came, some left, some stayed. And I even had a friend, I hadn't seen her in years. And she said, are you still doing Woman to Woman? And I said, yes, I am. And she goes, well, I remember when you had your first event. Yeah. So
what I like about God is so amazing. I know we have the Bible, for example, but He also always used our life to be examples. I tell people all the time, as God called us, He called us to be a witness. We think we're called to witness with our mouth, but we're really called to witness with our life, our life experience, the things that we go through. And so I'm hearing you say that you went through a struggle. And in the midst of that struggle, God birthed something out of you. And although He birthed it for other women, it's also your lifeline to keep you going. And so not only did He birth you woman to woman, but now you went through something tragic as far as grief. We have Lawanda here today. How are you doing today?
Hello, greetings to everybody. Hi, everyone. Hello.
Okay, so we were just introducing everybody to Belinda and sharing her story. We know that Belinda has a ministry called Woman to Woman. She started over 30 years where God took her off the street. In the midst of taking her off the street, he used her to encourage other ladies.
Yes.
And so, Luanda, please introduce yourself to everybody and tell us a little about yourself.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to the Be True to You talk show. It is a long time coming. I've wanted to sit at this lovely table for such a long time. Greetings to everybody. I'm so glad to be able to share my story with you. And so at the end of the day, what I want to do is just really be able to encourage individuals as we are talking about grief and how to grow through the stages of grief.
Yeah, and then what do you do as a lawyer? Aren't you an entrepreneur as well?
Absolutely, yes. I am an entrepreneur, everyone, and that is what I enjoy the most about being able to own my time. Being able to own my time has probably been the biggest part of my entrepreneurial journey. I'm an MC. I host events. I have a company called You Need an MC, and that's what I do. I do a lot of MC work all throughout the city of Fort Lauderdale. In addition to that, I own a customer service rescue company where I actually work with corporations to be able to assist them with educating their customer service representatives for their call center work, and we're expanding that business as well.
And so if you have a program, you have an event, and you need an MC, look at Luanda. And find her on Facebook. You have Instagram as well?
I did. It is. You need an MC on Facebook and on Instagram.
So
absolutely.
Make sure you connect with her. You can hear her voice, right? She's meant for MC and TV, and it's just amazing.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
So listen, when I started at Be True to You, I knew I wanted to have Belinda because I knew her story. And then in the midst of God bringing you to Be True to You hair to get your hair done, I knew there was a connection. I knew that you didn't just start coming to me for hair. I realized that everything is for a purpose.
Agreed.
And God connected us for that. And I want to tell you, thank you for being here. Now, you and Belinda may not know this, but I think you guys lost your son. Both of them lost a son. And this is where I really joined them as far as growing with grief. And I felt like it was really important to have this topic, growing through grief, because again, 2019, we just lost so many people.
Yes.
And though we're used to death, it just seemed like it was coming back to back, back to back, back to back.
Right.
And on top of COVID, it was causing a form of depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've seen as I watch you guys from afar, I see you guys are still living.
Yeah.
I see that you understand that you had to continue. So I want you to share your story if you're comfortable with how you lost, each one of you lost your son. You lost your son in what month?
January of 21.
And you lost your son when?
Exactly the same. January of 2021.
I thought so.
Wow.
I thought so.
Wow.
And that's why I wanted to put you guys together, because I knew it was extremely close. But it is a different as far as your story, as far as how you lost your son. So Luanda, can you tell us how you lost your son?
Absolutely, I'll be more than happy to share. And I will say this, that it was, when we talk about growing through grief, I really have to acknowledge that it does really stalemate you in some areas. I was actually looking forward to this, but as the moment, the hour, the second, the day approached, I really didn't want to do it anymore.
Because you have to live it all over again.
Because you have to relive it all over again. So I found myself really struggling with the idea. You know, I'm very public about it. It's not a secret. It's not something that I share, but it's also something that I haven't really talked about in this type of a format. And so because of that, I found myself not really wanting to actually have the conversation. But I know that it's necessary because, like you said, so many people are struggling and dealing with grief and losing loved ones and family members. And I don't know about anyone else, but there are certain degrees of loss that just hit different. And children hit different. You know, because at the end of the day, my son was 31 years old and he was quite on his way to a level of success that he had manufactured and been working on for a long time. And he was born with a congenital health issue that required him to take medication. While he was a boy, he had no choice because mommy was giving him that medicine. But as he became a man, and even as a child, he didn't want to take the medication, but I forced him to do it. But when he became a man and he moved out and he was on his own, he really didn't take his medicine. So what that did was that led to him going into congestive heart failure. he wasn't taking his medication, and surely he had to know, as intelligent as he was, computer programmer, full stack developer in the making is what his website page says. As intelligent as he is, or as he was, he had to know that if you refuse to take your heart medication, that this is surely going to end your life. And that is exactly what happened.
It was a choice.
It was a choice. In January of 2021, I lost my son to congestive heart failure. He passed away in his dorm room. He was there for 6 days before we knew it. And it was really a challenging thing for all of us to go through. He is my mother's first grandson. He is my only son. He's my first child. He's my firstborn. He was just, and in a lot of respects, because he had so many medical issues, he also was the one whom I spent a lot of time really working with and sharing with and helping and mothering, and because that girl, she got on out on her own and did her thing. But for me and him, there was always a constant growth. So yeah, it was congestive heart failure, and that's what claimed my son's life.
Yeah, and that caught my attention too, because for you guys that don't know, and some of you guys do, my husband suffered from congestive heart failure. And so I pray about it. I know that God is in control, but I know that things can happen. And so, and we don't know the hour nor the day that we're leaving, and we don't know what God has in store for us. But I think knowledge would help you. And then this is why I felt like we needed to talk about this. This is a tough subject.
Absolutely.
And it shows how strong you guys are to be able to share your story. And so I can't tell you guys thank you enough. And I do believe that this is really going to help somebody.
Well, let me say this, because listen, had my son taken his medication, my son had the best cardiologist in Broward County. As a matter of fact, he's going commercial right now for Broward Health. It's the tall, black, slender man. If you're in Broward County, if you see him, that is my son's cardiologist. I'm like, hey, there's Blanchard. Whoa. Anyway, but the best cardiologist in Broward County. And had taken his medication, he would have lived a long, full life. And I do believe that he knew. I do believe that he was aware of the condition of his life. And I mean, we'll get more into it when we answer more, when we talk about more questions. But at the same token, it does not have to be a death sentence. I wanted to take that off the table for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I just make sure you take this medicine. And then you would have that. We don't have those issues. I'm like, no, you can't decide you want to take it one day and not take it another.
That's right.
You got to take it every day.
Every single day. At the same time.
Every
single day.
Every day at the same time. And so thank you for that. Now, Belinda, you kind of lost your son in a different manner.
Yeah, my son was a victim of suicide.
My Lord.
So, and I just want to jump back to what you said. Even in preparation for coming here, I was excited about it. But then yesterday I had a trigger. And I was like, where's all this coming from? I just did not want to be bothered. Don't talk to me. So I wanted to get my hair done. Do all this stuff to kind of get right. And then all of a sudden I just shut down. So when you say that, then I'm learning I have to be mindful of my triggers. What things kind of set me off. And I was actually on a Zoom call and we were talking about grief. And before I knew it, I was back there again. I had started reliving it all over again. So yes, my son was a victim of suicide. And this was back in January. And I guess I'll just tell the part of the story when I got the phone call. Because he sent, they said they always leave a note.
Yep.
But what my son did, he sent a text to about 13 or 14 of us. Group text. So I'm looking at the text Thursday night, never forget it. And I'm thinking something is not right. The way it was worded, the way he said, sometimes I knew myself would go off on those little tangents, where he would get upset with everyone or whatever. And I said, no, something is not right. Something is not right. And we kept going back and forth, trying to find him because he lived in Orlando. And we just never got a response. So long story short, 2:00 in the morning, I got a knock at the door. I said, well, maybe it's him. He came home, whatever the situation was. And it was BSO, and they said, we got a call from the Orlando police that your son was involved in a homicide. And I was like, but he's okay. And they said, unfortunately not, because they didn't have all the information at the time. And I, you kind of, everything starts to be a blur, because you're looking at them, but you're not really feeling what they're saying. And I just kind of stood there and I called my husband. I started screaming, and he came and he was like, well, what's wrong? So we invited the officers in, and they gave me a number to call to Orlando, and they gave me the rest of the information. Then, long story short, later on, we found out what had actually happened to my
My
son.
Lord. How many did they send?
Actually, I think it was 3.
Okay.
It was 3 gentlemen. Very nice, very cordial. They had their mask on, so I couldn't really see who they were. And but I did send them a thank you card because they were so nice to me at that time. And you know, when you hear something like that, it knocks you, because I thought in the beginning that it was a homicide, but later on we found out it was a
I
suicide.
asked that question
So-
because they sent 4 BSO officers, 2 officers in each car, a fire engine with 4 firefighters. My police officers were fully artillery. They were full camouflage, guns on their knees, strapped to the gods, and to tell them to make that notification. And that added another layer of trauma.
Exactly.
Like, what happened to the detectives in the unmarked car with the suit on? Like, bring them to my house. They sent half of the BSO department for me.
And so
Yeah,
it's amazing. That how old were your son?
33.
Mine,
33 and 31,
Yeah.
and it's still
it never gets easy.
No. And so with that being said, that you guys had experience, and you talk about how the policemen came, the different way they came. You had 2. You had 4.
I always remember I think 2 or 3. Maybe I was sitting in the car.
Eight plus 4 firefighters. And I understand the blur, because while they were talking to me, it was just like, okay. While they were having that conversation, it was such a crazy experience.
Yes.
It was an out of body,
Mhm.
really crazy experience to have
Yes.
to go through that. It was just really a
Yes.
strange experience.
Okay, so one of my questions with you guys experiencing that and going through that, what are one of the things you wish people would just simply stop asking or saying to people that's going through grief?
Are you okay?
Mm.
Are you okay? Thank you for that. Thank y'all. Thank you for that. But no.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, no. And so, listen, I live with the reality of my life, but no, I'm not okay.
Mhm.
Do I go on? Mm-hmm. Do I still get up and go to work? Sure do. Do I still manage to live my life with the absence of my son? Absolutely. But am I okay? I wouldn't necessarily say I'm okay. I lost something that I gave birth to. And I remember that big head boy. He was 10 pounds. I will never forget that big head boy. Never.
Is it the same question for you?
Pretty much the same thing. I had, yes. So I wrote out a couple of things, because I actually did a Facebook post about it, because I got so sick of people asking me the same, to me, dumb behind questions. Don't ask me that no more. And I had somebody I had to chew out in the grocery store. And she called me at the wrong time. So when they say, don't ask me that no more, I felt like Will Smith, I'm gonna punch you in your face.
You got to
Yes, yes. So I think the biggest one, because in the beginning, it was like people asked me, well, what happened? What happened? How did he die? And I wanted to say, does it even matter? Right at this particular time, maybe later on we could talk about that, but not right now. Don't ask me what happened. And like she said, you're gonna be okay. Don't tell me it's gonna be okay. It's gonna get better, but it's not. It's never, ever, never, ever gonna be okay.
Every holiday, every birthday, every Easter, every time, everything that comes up, every vacation, every trip, every new restaurant, everything. We're like, I wish Dawn was here. Oh, Dawn would have loved this. And it's hard to really realize that individual will never. We had a situation just last week where his sister came to visit us. He has a sister with my ex-husband. He has a sister with another who has a different mom, and she came to stay with us. And there were some things that jumped off, and I was like, wow, Dewan, you really should have been in a situation where you would have been here to deal with this. So it never goes away. It's like a constant reminder. There's an absence and a piece of you that you just don't have.
I haven't lost a child, but I lost the closest thing that I lost, which was my life.
Oh,
was
yes.
my father.
Oh, yes.
And so even with him being dead 25 years now, it's still, whether it be a song, whether it be you experience some things and you just wish that your father would hear, or if I go through some things, I was like, if my daddy was here, this wouldn't be like this. So I understand that.
But do you know why? And why we struggle? And that's the second most difficult person to lose. Children and then parents. Because it's out. order.
Mhm.
It's out of order. You know, it's just like, you know, not with parents, but
Well,
with
yeah,
children.
children.
It's
correct.
out of order.
Right.
It's just an out of order kind of a
Right,
sequence of
because
things,
children
and you're not
supposed to
ready.
parents not
Yeah.
yeah. But both of you guys are Christian. Both of you guys believe in Christ. So how do it comfort or does it comfort you when people say, God, yeah, I know you love them, but God loves them best?
That don't make sense.
Because God gave you to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if that were the catalyst of this,
Mhm.
God, why would you give me something that you wasn't going to let me have henceforth and forevermore?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yes, I do know that God can never outlove my children the way that God loves my children. But at the same token, that's a gut wrenching way to try to prove to me that God's love for my son. Like that's a heck of a way for God to prove to me, oh, I loved him more. I want him back.
So I'm not going to ask the second question because the second question is like, what's the hardest thing dealing with loss of your son? And that's the hardest thing is going to be the absence that you can never replace him, that he's going to be so much. And there's no more creating new memories.
Right.
And so what I will ask is that if you had a mother that you knew or that's watching that experienced a loss in the way that you did, Belinda and LaWanda, what would you say? So Belinda, what would you say? So look over to your camera and speak to that mother who's going through, and it may not be a mother, it could be anyone that's going through grief. What would you tell them to encourage them or give them hope to push forward?
The very first thing I would say is take your time. Don't let anyone rush you into anything. And that was something that I had to do. I had to extend grace to myself because I'm such a helper and I want to be here and I want to be there. I didn't know how to take the grace for myself. It was easy to say it to other people, but when it was my turn, when I got hit in the mouth, I had to learn how to say, you know what, sit down somewhere, take care of yourself, be still,
Yes.
because I did not know what to do with myself. I did write down a couple of things, and just so I could remember, don't let people tell you how you should feel. That was another thing. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, you should feel that way. And like Lowana, excuse me, said, oh, people say, oh, well, you shouldn't feel that way. God loves him best. Who are you to tell me that? Please don't say that. Also, I would tell them get some help.
Yes, indeed.
Please get some help. It's good to have your ride or die chicks and your husband and all that, but seek some professional help. Those were the things that really helped me. I joined a counseling group, a group therapy group, and that group saved my life. It was a 10-week course, and then I did individual counseling as well. Of course, I went to the throne room.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were times when I would go to church, I couldn't even open my mouth. So even when you can't say a word, just go on into the church house and let the people love on you because it's tough. And looking at people when they know that you're hurting.
Yeah.
And I just need to say, it's okay. Let me just get it all out. And they don't say anything to you. For me, that was the hardest. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable is okay. It's really okay. If you have to cry, roll on the floor,
Kick, scream,
all that,
Be real with it.
be real with it. Don't let anyone tell you you should feel that way.
Yeah.
And if you can't find somebody, keep crying out to God. I think the biggest thing for me was God sending people that I least expected.
Ooh, good. Yeah.
And accepting the love for people that I didn't expect. Give yourself time. Um, it's probably a dozen more things that I probably would say to that person that's going through this. Um, be patient.
Amen.
Yeah,
I had to step back from life as I knew it and what I thought it should be to a life that God gave me. It's almost like I had a rebirth in the death of my son. I know it may sound funny or stupid or crazy, but it actually caused me to open up and find another person. I thought I was, I know I'm really empathetic, I'm very compassionate, but it took me to another level of understanding people and taking time with people.
Yeah.
And the most thing I would say to other people, when you find someone that's in grief, you don't have to say anything special, just show up. Your presence alone.
Mhm.
People say, "Oh, I didn't know what to say to you," but you didn't even call me.
My Lord.
You didn't even say anything. People look, and I don't know if it was because we were wearing the mask, but you could almost see them looking at you, but they wouldn't open their mouth. And I think for me, that was the most painful thing.
Yeah.
People not acknowledging my pain. And not that I wouldn't say that they did it on purpose, but maybe they didn't know what to say.
Correct.
But it was more painful for me that they didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call. I didn't know what to say to you, so you said nothing.
And so, what would you say to
You know, that was gut wrenching, and I know those emotions, and I affirm you in your emotions, and I want you to know that um, it's imperative that we have the conversation,
Yeah.
and that is for me what it is, talking.
Yeah.
Talking is what really helped me to be able to deal with the loss of my son. Um, I am very fortunate in the reality, or you can call it fortunate, but my son had 3 services, 3, and I was able to eulogize him 3 times. And so, what I didn't say at the first one, I got a chance to say at the second,
Mhm.
and what I didn't say at the second, I had an opportunity to say at the third. And it was interesting to me because a lot of my family members was like 3 services, like. I'm like, but they're there for us, the living. It has nothing to do with the deceased.
Come on.
It's there for us. And for me as a mother, I believe that was my beginning of my healing because I had so many opportunities to share with the people who were there who my son really was and how phenomenal and how great and how amazing he was. And so for me, it has continued to be talking about it and not allowing his memory to be silenced ever, but keeping him alive in everything that I say and in everything that I do.
Okay, so we have a question from Mary Lewis. She said, "Do you ever get mad about the situation and the way it's handled?"
What do you mean?
What do you mean by that, Mary?
Do you ever get mad about the situation and the way it happened? Oh, the way it happened. I'll say yeah. I'll say yes. That situation that I referenced a little bit earlier with my bonus daughter, I was mad, because she has a grief that she has not dealt with that really kind of impacted her. And that was my conversation to him. It was literally like, you see, Dewan, do you see why you should have been here? Do you see why you are necessary and needed? Because again, it was my son's choice. Now, I don't believe that he knew that he was going to expire that night. But at the same token, there's no way that you didn't know that this constantly not taking this medication was going to claim your life. So yeah, there is anger that comes as a result of that when there are specific moments that I need him for. Yeah, I do. I get upset with him. But at the same token, I have learned how to accept his choice. And that has been the hardest journey on my grief, on growing through my grief, was learning how to accept his choice. There is nothing I can do to be able to change the choice that he made.
And you, Belinda?
Pretty much the same thing. The anger. I just had to flip the page again in talking with, because I have a granddaughter.
Mhm.
My son has a child. So in dealing with that part and being honest and truthful about the situation, so we had to finally, talk to her about that. And that, for me, that's when the anger comes. Like, she won't get to enjoy her dad.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that, for me, that's anger. And
that's real.
oh my goodness. So even in talking to my counselor, that was one of the things that we talked about. I have to write a letter of forgiveness to my son, forgiving him for what he did. And that's, I never thought about that. You know, I write a little letter, you know, letting him go, but like forgiving him for not being here and being a part of all this still because of his choice, yeah, and circumstances and situation and the way that it happened as well. So it's a process. It's yeah, I get angry, then I accept it, and then I get mad all over again, then I'm in denial, like no, this is not really what happened. It should be a different story.
And so we do know there is different stages of grief. And I guess the first would be in denial,
Mhm,
right? And then,
definitely.
and so after you conquer the denial, then the next one is, would you say it's anger?
What I've heard and going through grief counseling, it's very, it's not linear. It's not like you're gonna be right here, you're gonna shoot right here. No, you can be like, I'm gonna accept it one day and I'm good, and the next like,
That's exactly what I'm getting ready to
and then the next I'm holding my head, going, oh my God. And then if I see somebody that looks like him,
Whoa.
it's like I want to run over and give him a hug.
Do you find yourself getting angry with God?
Yeah.
I remember when my dad died, and I was like, I felt like at that time in my life that nobody, absolutely nobody loved me like my father.
Mm.
And so for God to take him from me, I'm like, God, who's gonna love me now? And I'm telling you, I can remember 25 years ago, I can remember like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
And so I got so angry with God to the point where I thought I didn't want to serve him. So I kind of like backslid. And but in the midst of that backsliding, I remember one day I was in the, they said it was, they called it a dream, but I know it was a vision.
Mhm.
When I called myself mad at God. Thank God for really, because he would take care of my kids, because I would go out, I was clubbing. I was 29 years old, and I had never ever smoked weed before in my life.
Wow.
And I decided that
That night?
that night, but I had this friend girl. I was like, take me to get some weed. And we went and she bought a joint, and that was it. And I was mad at myself afterwards because now I can never say I never smoked weed. But I only got mad at myself when I came back to Christ. I remember laying in my bed and demons grabbed me by my feet and was pulling me down to hell.
My Lord.
And all I could say was, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And Jesus literally came and swooped me up right before the floor closed, which was the doors of hell. Right before they closed, they snatched me up.
My Lord.
He allowed me to go through, he showed me the Lamb Books of Life. I didn't know that because all I saw was names,
Mhm.
names written. And I realized he was showing me the pages of the Lamb Books of Life. And so have you experienced those things where you wanted to be angry with God? I felt like you wanted to turn your back on God, or you felt like God turned his back on you?
No, I'm going to be honest with you, Angela. I was relieved.
Mm.
I was relieved. My son lived he had so many challenges with his health, and he did not want to take his medication. So for me, and I believe that that's been a great part of my healing process, is that he doesn't have to suffer anymore. I see things, and for instance, and this is what's really wild. My son came home for Christmas break. This was December of 2020. He came home, and I had him to go out to my truck. We had been to the beach, and I had him. Yes, we go to the beach in December, y'all.
Yeah.
I love it.
We go to the beach in December, but I had him go out to the car and vacuum the sand out, and he couldn't stand longer than 7 minutes to vacuum out the car. And when he came back up to the porch where I was sitting, like, boy, you get it, and at that point, I rolled up his pants leg. I looked at his legs. His leg was the size of my upper thigh. And just huge. His ankles were so swollen. And I was like, son, this is an indication that you're not taking your medication the way you're supposed to. And, you got to get to the doctor. So I immediately the next day called his cardiologist and made an appointment. And my cardiologist had already told my son that if you come back in here and you haven't gotten this weight off, or if your legs are in this condition again, and he had been hospitalized before for those legs, if you come back, we're going to have to do evasive. We're going to have to go ahead and give you a pacemaker. We're going to have to go ahead and give you, something like that in order to keep you alive. And so we scheduled that appointment, and it was scheduled for February the 9th. Had he made it, he would have been walking around here with a pacemaker. And he never ever wanted that. That was not the life that he wanted to live. And so now what I'm doing is I'm running into individuals that are living with pacemakers.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
know. I have that with a
I'm like, yeah, he would have wanted that.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with I have a good friend of mine that has a pacemaker, married, children, wonderful life, but he's had 6 heart attacks. His wife can't sleep at night
Mhm.
because he keeps having heart attacks.
Mhm.
And I'm like, so those are the things that bring me great comfort. I'm like, yeah, God, you know, you do all things well. And even though I might not agree,
Mhm.
my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. And you knew that because Dewan died January the 29th. So 10 days later, had he lived, they'd have cut him up in a pacemaker.
And you, Belinda?
Wow, she's bringing up a lot. I guess because I went through the grief counseling, and that was some of the things, and it was a faith-based grief counseling. So we talked about that kind of stuff. And I got so much good information, biblical stuff, that I couldn't be mad at God. Because one of the sessions we were talking about, and it was talking about Job when he went through his experience, and he said, "Who are you to question God?" And that kind of cut everything right there. Like, was you even there when I did all of this stuff? And I had called my mom. I don't even remember the conversation we were talking. And my mom is not a Christian. She's a Christian. She loves God, but she's not that go-to person. But she said, "Well, baby."
When the conversation starts with the word baby, you know it's about to be good.
Yeah, exactly. She said, "Well, baby, God already knew this was going to happen before it was born." And after that, I couldn't even say anything.
Right.
I practiced a lot of acceptance,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been 37. I like to just keep our shows at 30 minutes, but if you have any closing remarks you'd like to give the people?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this. Ladies and gentlemen that are listening to this show, first and foremost, let me tell you something. It is not by happen chance. It is not an accident that you just happen to be scrolling your timeline and you came across this Be True to You talk show dealing with the concept of growing the grief. These have been the worst, the most challenging last couple of years that we have all experienced. And I don't know anybody whose life is not touched by the death of a loved one, the death of someone whom you never thought would leave this earth. I want to encourage you to make sure that you understand that you are not in this by yourself. We have all had to learn how to lean on each other to be able to help us all transition through this time frame of grief and dealing with the loss of our loved ones. At the end of the day, unfortunately, you're in good company. So many of us have had to go through this. Find you somebody to talk to. Do not allow that depression to set in on your life. And I don't care what you have to do, scream, shout, run, skip, jump, go out of town, take a vacation, spend some money, buy some clothes, buy some shoes, whatever you need to do it so that you will be okay moving forward in your life that you still have to live. We love you. God bless you.
Wow. So many things I guess I want to piggyback, but allow yourself your time. I cannot reiterate that enough. Don't be pressured into going back to work right away, doing things. Life is normal because it's not going to ever be normal. It will never ever be the same. And give yourself permission to find your safe place. My safe place was in my bedroom. I remember, and the depression, the anger, the anxiety, the frustration, all of those feelings, I had to allow that stuff to come through my body and go out. And I kept saying, "Oh, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't do this." But if I didn't, it was like I was going to be stuck. And I did not want to be stuck. Getting professional help, talking to my girlfriends, whoever it was, my husband, my daughter, family, friends, going away for the weekend, just doing those things that will bring me peace or bring me peace. Those are the things that you do. But also, Angela, you spoke for me at one of my events at the Halfway House, and your slogan, "Be true to you," saved me. And I had to learn how to be true to myself, and even in this. yeah, I was depressed, I was hurt, I was angry, but God's grace was able to bring me through because I was true to my own feelings and I didn't let anyone dictate to me how I should feel. There were some times that I did, but when I kind of really stepped back and said, okay, God, breathe new life into me, be true to me, help me to be true to myself. That meant be honest with myself, be truthful to myself. If I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm mad, I need to say that. I remember looking out my window one day and I got so angry because the sun was shining.
My Lord.
I did not want, why is everybody still happy and going on with their life? Don't they understand how I feel?
Mm.
And when I processed that and said, you know what? It's okay, it's gonna be okay. And I remember God telling me, get up and live. You know, it's not over. And doing the Zoom calls or whatever, and trying to reach out to other people, those are the things that have brought me a lot of comfort because I'm a giver. But I had to learn how to take some of that nourishment for myself. I wasn't, I stopped eating physically and spiritually. So I had to learn how to step back and take care of myself. So those would be some of the things that I would say to someone that's going through grief. And don't be afraid to tell people how you feel.
Amen for that.
It's okay. It's really okay.
You around me, you won't hear what I got to say.
And
Go ahead.
no, I think it was one thing people said, and this is the number one thing I heard people say, oh girl, call me. Do you know how much this phone weighs when you're grieving? This is the heaviest thing in the world. I could not. People say, oh, why you ain't calling me?
Girl,
I can't.
honey.
I would literally look at the phone.
Wow.
I couldn't call nobody.
Wow.
And if nobody didn't text me, or maybe I would see the phone, whatever, couldn't talk.
I didn't even have mine for weeks.
Wow.
People were looking for me. They were like, okay, let me just call my family because I had to just listen. That'll make you put your phone down. Erica, but you didn't have nothing on down. Now that'll make you put your phone down. That'll make you put your phone down. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. Let me ask you this question. I do want to ask this question before we leave. Quick question, quick sentence, make it short. What did you learn about yourself in this growing through grief?
I think that the thing that I learned the most is that life is not promised to any of us, and that you better make the most of it. Live your dash. Live your dash.
What did you learn about yourself?
That I was stronger than I thought I was.
Yes.
I'm stronger than I thought I was. Things that I thought that I was never able to do, I could do it.
Thank
And I
you.
had to give myself permission to do it.
Thank you.
Love it.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up, you guys. We can go on and on about this subject, but this is something that's needed. It's something that we all experience, and I'm just so thankful. Thank you for watching. Thank you for these ladies for sharing. I could not have done it without you. Let me give you guys a round of applause. Thank you for watching. And we do have some live audience. Today we have Miss Tina and Barbara. So clap your hands. So we will be having some seats for live audience because it makes a difference. And so they also feedback. So anyway, I want to thank you again. Thank you so very much for being a part of us. Remember, be true to you is not about being perfect. It's just about being authentic. Be able to understand and be able to accept the good, bad, and the ugly. Accept those things you cannot change, and those things that you can, put on your big girl or big boy panties and change them. So thank you so very much for being a part of us. And remember, everything you do, always be true to you. I love you. I mean it. Bye.
Bye.